What implications does this higher dimensional consciousness have for our understanding of time and space? Time and space are perceptual limitations. They are not fundamental existential properties. And they both are totally linked to each other. Space implies time, and time implies space. It is only because in space, two points are separated by distance, the concept of time even exists, because it takes time to move between those points. If both those points were together, if there was no distance separating them, where is the necessity for time? That is what consciousness is. Consciousness is a totality where two points are not separated by distance. Now, we can't even visualize this. That is why we cannot visualize consciousness. Everything is being visualized through consciousness. When you visualize, you are creating something on the screen of consciousness. Now, how can you put consciousness on the screen of consciousness and try and understand what it is? Now, this is the difficulty. Existentially, consciousness is remarkably simple. In fact, it is so simple that simplicity is what translates as grandness in the design of life. When we wonder why is this design so intelligent, one of the arguments for the creator. Look at the intelligence in the structure. Look at the beauty. Look at the order. How can there not be a higher creator? How can all these things simply happen? It's a valid point. But if we truly understand what consciousness is, we'll realize that it is not that the design is intelligent. Intelligence itself is the design. Let me repeat that again. It is not that our three-dimensional design is created by intelligence. The design itself, intelligence itself is the design. There is no higher design. What we recognize as intelligent design is simply the design of intelligence itself being filtered through our experiences, being filtered through the world of thoughts. In fact, our three-dimensional world is a very choppy world. The beauty and intelligence we identify here is still dispersed. In the fourth dimension, in consciousness, everything that we experience as our three-dimensional world, everything that we regard as intelligence, beauty, order, structure, space, time, it's all sitting on a single point. On a single point. That is consciousness. For us, from here, it is just a single point. That is why we call this point singularity. For example, we say black hole is a singularity, where all our three-dimensional mathematics and physics breaks down. because the gravitational force is so much that it curves space and time so much, it distorts the curvature of space and time so much that the curvature is infinite, so nothing can escape the gravitational force of a black hole. Now, this is general relativity. Of course, general relativity did not know the existence of consciousness, the existence of the fourth dimension. Remarkably, the mathematics of the black hole will be exactly the same whether you call it a singularity or a totality. The effects of singularity and the effects of totality are indistinguishable. Why? Because the effect on our three-dimensional perceptual fabric is absolute. That is what a black hole is. If it is a singularity, it means there is a point beyond which our three-dimensional world cannot enter. And if something falls into a black hole, there is no way it can come out of it, because the escape velocity needed to come out of the black hole is faster than the speed of light. And nothing can move faster than the speed of light. A black hole at the event horizon has an exact escape velocity as that of the speed of light. Anything inside that horizon cannot escape it. But now look at this singularity as a four-dimensional totality. You would get the exact same effects. Now, fourth dimension is a higher dimension. Our three-dimensional world is a shadow. Based on the rules of dimensionality, a lower dimension can exist in a higher dimension only as a shadow. Now, what happens when shadow meets light? It gets distorted. It cannot become the light. It cannot shine on the light to see what light is. So it simply gathers around a point, maintains its distance, and says, this is it, this is my limit. Forget about reaching the fourth dimensional center, I cannot even see it because I'm a shadow. So I simply distort around this center. And the fourth dimension itself will appear like something black. Because light cannot be shined on it. The only way things are visible in our world is by shining light on it. If there is no light shining on it, it's completely black. Whether it's there or not, it doesn't matter, it's completely black. So that is why a black hole is a black hole. But in actuality, it is not a hole. It is not black. It is not singularity. It is consciousness itself. Of course, because consciousness is outside of time and space, for us, we can only mathematically define it as a point of singularity. It has to be a point of singularity, because anything more than a point, you're saying this fourth dimension actually occupies space. No, it doesn't. It's a completely different entity altogether. Hence, at the most, what we can do using our mathematics, our physics, is to call it a singularity. Now, why do I say that black holes are fourth dimensional centers? What is the evidence for it? Firstly, if we understand what a black hole is, we will understand what time is. We will understand what space is. Because black holes are the only structures in the universe where our three-dimensional time and space is ripped, where it cannot even exist. That is where we need to be looking. If there is a place where our reality, everything that we recognize as our world, which is on this three-dimensional fabric, is being distorted to a point where it has created a hole where this fabric cannot even exist. So, which means there is a place where time is zero and space is zero. What this means is time and space are not existential realities. They are limited to our three-dimensional perceptual world. Now, how can we establish this? Look at black holes. Initially, we did not even believe that these things exist. It was entirely a prediction of Einstein's mathematics. He predicted the existence of black holes. He predicted the existence of singularities, but did not believe that they would actually be there. That is how impossible a mathematical entity singularity is. It is only on paper. On paper, we were able to calculate that, yes, a point can become so dense that it will not even allow light to escape. So it will have an event horizon and it will have certain properties. It was only mathematical. But then we were able to actually detect the effects of black holes at the center of galaxies. Before even detecting at the center of galaxies, we detected a black hole and we understood that black hole can be formed when supermassive stars explode. There's a technical way of describing it, that if a star is big enough in mass, when it goes through its life cycle, there comes a point when it begins to expand. It becomes a red giant. And then, because the energy required to keep it in that stage is not enough, the gravitational force that is at the center, the core, collapses this entire star on itself. There are different types of stars that can be formed through the process, but the basic understanding was this is how black holes are formed. They are formed when supermassive stars explode and collapse on their own gravity. That is a good enough explanation. But then we started finding black holes at the centers of galaxies. And now it is almost unanimously agreed that every galaxy has a central black hole. It's a rule. It's not an exception. And these black holes are so huge that it is impossible to explain their size as a result of a star collapsing. Some of them are billions of times the size of the sun. Billions of times. There is one that is 600 billion times the mass of the sun. There is no way a star could have exploded, formed the black hole, and then galaxy would have formed around it. So another theory is it is the collapse of the gas clouds. All kinds of theories. But these theories are not right. Mainly because black holes are not created. They are not objects. Black holes are existential. Everything around a black hole is the perceptual world of our three-dimensional world. The black hole itself is the fourth-dimensional conscious center. It cannot be created. You can discover them. It is extraordinarily hard to detect them because of the sheer distance between galaxies and how small a region they occupy. because black holes affect gravitationally surroundings that are very near to them. The event horizon is not somewhere far away from the black hole, it is very close to it. Beyond the event horizon, the gravitational effect of the black hole drops. So to detect a black hole is extraordinarily difficult. In fact, there is a black hole, a conscious center, at the center of every object. It is at the center of the sun. I mean, this is something I am predicting as a part of my theory. A day will come when we will discover that every celestial body has a center, an existential center, where the gravitational force is immense. As of now, we call that center the core. Everything has a core. Earth has a core, sun has a core. But someday we'll know that there is a core inside that core. A point of singularity. Why is it a singularity? Because on the other side of this perceptual three-dimensional world is the existential fourth dimension. That fourth dimension manifests, or is possible for us to visualize it, understand it, grasp it only as a single point. So it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to detect them, but someday we will detect them. We'll see that black holes are everywhere, all kinds of sizes, and they are not formed. In fact, if you looked at 10 black holes in the sky, separated by enormous distances, they are all exactly the same point. Let me repeat that. They are exactly the same point. Because consciousness has no concept of space. For us, they appear like different black holes because perceptually we are in a distorted fabric. Our three-dimensional world is a distorted perception of reality. It is still totality, but distorted. That is why we see two black holes as two different entities.